sponsored program paid for by Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group, RE/MAX Results. Welcome to Rochester Real Estate, featuring Robin Gwaltney from Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good morning. It's Andy Brownell, News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. And it is that time of the week and that time of the morning we connect with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results, to talk about Rochester real estate. Good morning, Robin.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Great.
Yourself?
Awesome.
I know you're busy. You've been all over the place, all over the country.
It is just I can tell you, it is still a really busy time in real estate, which is just amazing. It is just awesome. Yeah, we actually took a little short trip to Scottsdale last week, and every year we do it. Scott and our son-in-law play in this father-son baseball tournament.
Oh,
well, yeah, it's really fun, but this year Scott had to play with no sons because even though they were both fully vaccinated, they both got COVID, tested positive.
No.
Yeah, it was a bummer. Luckily, I think their vaccine helped them from getting too sick because they just basically had like head cold symptoms, but had to stay home, had to stay away from people, had to quarantine, had to do all those things, and they did. And then we went, and it was fun, and the weather was great, and then we were supposed to come home Sunday, and guess what? We were booked on American Airlines.
Oh, and that whole thing went down, huh?
So we got home a day and a half late, but we're back, and it was a busy week because of that, because whenever you're gone from work for a few days, there's always that backpedal and makeup. So I've been pretty much on my phone from one call to the next and running all over the place, but I'm not complaining. I love being busy. Business is great, and it's all good.
Well, a couple of weeks back when you and I were chatting, you were talking about rumors about Zillow and that whole, I don't know what, the internet buying.
The iBuyer.
That's what it's called.
Which is basically internet buying.
Well, now it's all over the news this week. There's headlines in the Wall Street Journal and every place else.
Yep, my prediction was correct. It was only a matter of time. How many times have we talked on this show about this real estate is a people business. And for somebody just to pick up the phone and call you, tell you a price that they're going to give you on your house based on their Zestimate, which I've talked about so many times, and tell you how inaccurate they are because they use such a big pool of data and they just kind of standardize it, which we all know that is not the way the real estate market works.
No.
So they went around the country buying up houses like crazy people, thinking that they were going to sell them all for some big, huge profit. Well, now they're sitting with a bunch of unsold houses that they actually paid more for than they're going to be able to sell them for.
Interesting.
Darn it.
Well, if you're a Zillow stockholder, you're probably not you're not celebrating right now.
No, because their stock has dropped big time, and they're laying off a lot of their employees, which makes me feel horrible. I don't like it when people lose their jobs. But honestly, since they've come on the scene, it's been 15 years at least. We have been saying, what are they trying to do? What they're doing is not right. They're giving out false information. I would have clients call me and say, well, my Zestimate is, okay, let's not talk about your Zestimate. Let's talk about your market analysis that we will give you based on comps that are right here in our market. So sometimes, just by chance, the Zestimate comes somewhere close, and then they think, oh, yeah, so it was pretty, well, sometimes they're way, way off.
Well, what were they thinking? That's what they must have known that their numbers didn't. Maybe they never checked.
I honestly feel like greed is the driver of everything.
Well, sure.
I just feel like they thought, well, we're just going to buy up all these houses because we can. We've got the deep pockets, so we're just going to go out there. And what they would do when they were buying them is you could get online, you could say, make me an offer on my house. They have that now for used cars. Right. I see it, that CarX or whatever it is. But people would go on and say, this is where my house is, this is my address, this is my whatever. And they would look it up, and then they would just submit an offer to them. And I went to very many listing appointments where they said, I tried to sell it to Zillow, but they say it's only worth this much. and then I could sell it for more. Or sometimes they'd say, well, Zillow's going to give me this much. And I'd say, if Zillow's going to give you that much, sell it to Zillow. Sell it to Zillow, because Zillow's going to have a hard time getting that much back. And we do have houses right here in the Rochester market that they did buy that are sitting on the market unsold because guess what? They paid too much.
Wow.
So they're going to take a loss on a lot of the houses that they end up selling. They're going to sell them all now. They've shut down the iBuyer program. That's history. They're not doing that anymore. But the inventory they have, they're going to have to sell. So there might be some deals to be had.
Well, but if they're overpriced and they're taking a loss, it means they'll probably be sold for what the value should be.
Maybe, but maybe they'll just have to dump. I mean, I don't know what their game plan is.
Oh, wow.
You know, how fast they plan to liquidate.
Well, that would make me angry if one was in my neighborhood, because it would have if they dump it.
Oh, I don't think it's going to be, you know, I'm just saying maybe you might get a house. You might be able to buy a house for $5,000 or $10,000 under the market value, which in this market is a great deal because that doesn't happen very often.
Well, do you have any idea how many of these Zillow-fied houses there are around here in our market?
Not a lot in our market. You know, if you go up to the metro, it's a lot different.
Okay.
But we're kind of a small fish in the big ocean.
So when you do a valuation on a home and go through all this analysis, you're looking at the square footage of the house, the location of the house, I suppose the size of the lot, the condition of the house, but it's mainly what the house a block away sold for, correct? Or
right.
2 blocks away, or in the same neighborhood near the same school.
And Zillow, I mean, they haven't, I mean, it's not like it just collapsed. They've been losing money. I think I read in one article that over the last 3 years, they've lost like $1 billion.
Oh, wow.
In the last 3 or 3.5 years. So they've been doing it, but yet they kept buying. You know how sometimes, you know, you think, okay, well, I'm this far in, I might as well try this or I might as well try that. But they just kept getting further and further in because they weren't taking the time to do those analysis on price like we do. You know, like you said, we know you're not going to compare a certain neighborhood to another neighborhood if they're completely different neighborhoods, right? So we know, like, you're going to use, it doesn't have to be necessarily, I mean, when an appraiser does an appraisal, they're physically within a mile. But like when I'm doing a market analysis, I might just say, okay, other northwest properties or other southwest properties or other southeast properties. And sometimes you'll use them from across town. It might be the same builder that did a subdivision over here and then later did a subdivision over here. I mean, but we know that stuff. So we're taking, you know, scientific data into consideration when we're coming up with these prices.
You know, strangely, this whole thing makes me feel good for some reason. The idea that the machine's lost.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because I have to admit there's probably not too many realtors out there that are saying, oh, darn it, poor Zillow.
Yeah, I bet.
Probably not.
Oh, gosh. And when you were describing, you know, that they went all in even though they were losing money, that's exactly why I don't go to Vegas.
Exactly, right? Okay, I've lost $500, so I might as well just keep going to try to get my money back. That isn't probably going to work out, guys.
Yeah, putting good money towards bad usually is not good.
Andy, I always go shopping instead of gambling. I'm going to walk away with something.
Yeah, I have something to bring home, whether my woes and my woulda, coulda, shoulda stories. Yeah. All right. We'll take a quick break. We're chatting with Robin Gwaltney with Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results here on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
We'll be right back with Robin Gwaltney and Andy Brownell on Rochester Real Estate. This is News Talk 1340 KROC.
What we've got.
Welcome back to Rochester Real Estate with Robin Gwaltney from Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results and Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back, everyone. Andy Brownell with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results. One more thing on the Zillow thing, Robin, I was thinking during the break. For those who are dealing with the aftermath, this is going to be a win-win situation because the people who sold their homes to Zillow for more than they were worth
got good money.
They did well. And then if these homes come on the market and increase the inventory available locally to buyers, they have a little bit more options.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
especially because they've been on the market, they've just been overpriced.
Right.
So now that they have to reduce the prices to get them sold, it does make more affordable listings available, which you're right. It's great. I'm
Okay.
super excited about that.
So also in
Good
the
point.
news this week, when we're talking about headlines in the news, the Federal Reserve didn't change interest rates, but they did change, I think, one of the economic stimulus programs, which could be the first thing that could start edging, not right away, but start edging interest rates a little bit higher down the road. And I know people who are...
They're slightly up, but, we'll see them go up a little and down a little,
Oh,
and
sure.
up a little. But, yeah, I actually did. I think I have something here. Okay, so here is an article that I have from Thursday, November 4th, okay?
Okay.
It says, should buyers be scared that mortgage rates are rising? So let me just quote some of it. It says, mortgage rates are no longer at the ultra-low rates below 3% as they were all summer. But housing analysts are reminding house hunters that borrowing costs remain relatively cheap. Freddie Mac reported that the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 3.14.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so the yield on a 10-year Treasury note has been trending up due to the decline in the new COVID cases and increasing consumer optimism, as well as broadening inflation and persistent shortages, says Sam Cater, Freddie Mac's chief economist. And so I think, basically they're telling us that 30-year fixed-rate mortgages averaged 3.14 with an average of 0.7 point, rising from last week's 3.09. A year ago, that same 30-year rate was 2.81. So, yeah, it's up, but it's not crazy.
Oh, no, it's still insanely low, in fact.
Yeah, and a 15-year fixed mortgage rate this last week was 2.37, and a year ago, 2.32.
That's almost exactly the same then.
Yeah, very little. So should people be worried? I'm going to say that's a big no. We're fine. Yes, we know the rates are going to go back up. We know they're not going to stay at these crazy low numbers. But when they're going up, that means that the economy is getting better, right?
Right.
So it's like the better the economy is, sure, then that's when those rates can go up a little bit. No.
Another news item this week, it is related to that, but Olmsted County is going to put $5 million into the system to help people with down payments on new homes. And
that's so great.
And I was chatting with Matt Flynn, County Commissioner, about that, and we were talking about, because homes have to be $300,000, and that doesn't include the lot, but the structure of the home, and the kind of mortgage it would take to support that. And at current interest rates, it would be about $1,100 a month for the
Isn't
mortgage.
that something?
Yeah, that is amazing with that.
Right. And have you gone out and looked at what you can rent for $1,100 a month?
Thankfully, I don't have to do that. No.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people have a child or somebody that's going to rent, and I mean, like I have nieces that are both in college that both rent apartments. And then I have another niece that lives out in New York, and we went to visit her, and I mean, it's New York, so of course it's going to be more expensive, but you see what these kids are paying to live and what they're getting for it, and it's like, oh my gosh, save your money and buy a house soon.
Yes.
As soon as you can.
Yeah, this is great, too, because it will give folks a chance to throw a $10,000 down payment at something.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it, love it. It's very good. Those kind of things always make me super happy. All right, so what I do have, I don't know if you want to go into it, but I do have the latest market report,
Sure.
so I can kind of tell you what things are doing in Rochester.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
All right, so currently we have 245 sales pending in the market overall, which leaves 243 listings still for sale. So, a few weeks ago, we had 500 houses for sale. Half of them have sold, okay? So we have a lot of, the resulting pending ratio then is 50% because you divide that by half,
Okay.
right? So then you say, okay, exactly what does that mean, right? So the pending ratio indicates that the supply and the demand in the market, and specifically a high ratio means that the listings are in demand, quickly going to contract. On the other hand, a low ratio means there are not enough, and now we're getting to that point where we're kind of evened out, right? So it's a steadier market, and that's why people say, oh, the market is really cooling down, it's really cooling down. Yes, it definitely isn't as crazy it was this summer, right?
But that wasn't a good thing either.
It wasn't a good thing. It caused so much stress for so many people. I mean, these young kids that were writing offer after offer and losing and losing and losing and finally just bowing out and saying, I can't take it anymore. I mean, those kids are back on the scenes now. They're saying, all right, now it's more of an even market, not necessarily all in favor of the seller. It's also very favorable for the buyers. And I've been saying that, no matter what, no matter even if you have to fight to get one, it's still a great time to be a buyer just because of that interest rate that you're getting locked in at. I mean, it's just crazy. Our median list price right now is $424,900. So talking about like that program with the down payment money,
yeah.
I mean, that's going to help people so much because these numbers, they're crazy and they're not going down. They're not going to be going backward. Okay. Prices are just going up, and again, not at this pace of 10% and 11% a year. They're predicting year over year. Next year when we're talking at this time, I'll say they're up 8% over last year, and then maybe the next year it'll be we're up 5% over last year, and then we'll get back into a 3.5% to 4% increase year over year, which is still a really good real estate market.
Yeah, and you're talking about those when we saw the rapid increases. That just creates a disaster overall in the long term if you continue to do that. If you're running 18% increases every year, you're going to get to the point where nobody can afford to get into the market.
Right. So in these past 30 days, the median sold price has been $295,000. Okay, so we've pretty much figured out a while back that that's entry level these days. Crazy. With an average days on market of 11 days, okay? So
it's still only 11 days on market?
11 days, yep. And so when people say, oh, we're starting to see prices come down, they're doing price drops. Well, they're doing price drops because they started too high. They started too high because they know that their brother sold his house in July and got 30 offers in one day. I mean, it's like we have to stay current with what's going on in the market today. Let's look at where are we at, what are things doing. And so it's so important when it's time to get your house on the market that you have that conversation with a realtor who really knows the market, understands how to price a house, and can give you realistic goals of what to expect so that you take the disappointment out. It's like taking out the unknown is what takes the stress out of the transaction.
Yep. And it's called a market for a reason.
It's called a market for a reason. Absolutely.
Right. We're with Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX results this morning, and we'll be right back on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
We'll be right back with Robin Gwaltney and Andy Brownell on Rochester Real Estate. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good morning. Welcome back. Andy Brownell and Robin Gwaltney, Gwaltney Group RE/MAX results. Well, we're getting, I hate to say this, we're getting closer to winter, Robin.
I know it. It's like, seriously, my brother called me and said, I'm coming home for Thanksgiving, and I'm thinking, well, Thanksgiving that's a ways off, and I'm like, oh, really? It's not, is it?
It's like 2 weeks.
I know, it's crazy.
Okay, so winter's coming, and are we looking at a more traditional market where it slows down quite a bit in the winter?
So people assume that our market slows down in the winter, but if I showed you a graph of my production, our team sales over the past, since we've been a team, since 2014, if I showed you a graph, you would be very surprised to see that the numbers don't really go down that much in November, even in the first couple weeks of December. Now, I will admit, you get into like December 20th all the way through January 3rd, we do see a little bit of a slowdown. I mean, we do. And it's because holidays, right?
Good.
People, it's just normal. I get to breathe.
You get to spend time with your family too then.
And I can't complain. I'm so lucky, We have our daughter working with us and our son's right in town, and a lot of the kids we raise live locally, and my parents live next door. So as busy as I am, I always still have time for my family, which is, I'm so lucky. Very, very lucky. But anyway, yes. And, that other thing is daylight savings, so it gets darker sooner, right? So typically people don't like to go looking at houses after dark. So that kind of shortens our days naturally. But it means more Saturdays and Sundays, which is fine with me. Less football for me. Oh, what a shame. I don't get to watch college football all day Saturday and what's the other one? NFL all day Sunday. I'm just not a big football girl. So, if your realtor's busy watching football, give me a call because I'm not.
So you mean you're not disappointed every weekend by the Vikings like the rest of us?
No, I'm really not. I'm not big into it. I'm just not. I'm a baseball girl. I think you know that, but I don't know. It's just not my game. So I don't, I don't mind working on the weekends. I never mind working on the weekends, but honestly, I like to show houses when it's light outside. Sometimes that doesn't work because sometimes people have to go after work. But typically, now that when the clock gets turned back and it's dark sooner, typically our days do end a little bit sooner, but our production doesn't really go down that much. We just get more done during the day. That's people take vacation time to go look at houses, or we go look over their lunch hour, or, whatever. So we make it work.
I think I'd rather do that anyway. Take a day off, because then I'm not going to feel hurried.
Well, especially if people worked all day long. I mean, we still have lives, right? They still have to get home and see their kids or go to this or go to that at school. So it just sometimes works better. And with people working remotely, a lot of times it is easier for them to schedule time out, because then they can just come back home and after dinner catch up what they didn't get done during the workday. So it works out.
And I was thinking that, that traditional thing we see in Rochester with the residents coming in and the craziness in that early spring period and what has happened over the past couple of years now, do you anticipate maybe that you might have some people trying to look earlier than they would have otherwise?
That's really another valid point, because I feel like our spring market just gets backed up late, I used to say, March is really busy. And then it's like, well, the end of February we get really busy. Then it was the middle of February we started to get really busy with our spring market. And it's like, well, here we are, January 15th, and we're running around like chickens with our heads cut off. So we just pretty much stay busy consistently, other than a couple of times a year. Like, I always notice a slowdown right at the holidays, just as natural, and I always notice a little slowdown kind of at the beginning of June, like that first week when kids are just getting out of school, and sometimes right before the Labor Day holiday, because everybody's getting busy getting their kids back into school. Sure. And it's amazing what a ripple effect that has. And I always tell everybody, you think it's quieting, but be prepared, because just as soon as you think, it's everything's slowing down, that's when you get busy. So if anyone on my team says, I'm noticing not as many clients, I said, good, take advantage of it, clean your garage, because next week your phone's going to be ringing off the hook. It's just really good.
I think I thought of another advantage to looking for a house in the winter.
Yes.
If you go into that house in the winter, you're seeing that house probably under the most strain it's going to be under for the entire year in our area. And if if the home has leaky windows and those sort of things, you're going to spot that right away.
If it's hard to, if a house doesn't have a good God, I can't spit out words. If a house doesn't have a good HVAC system, it's hard to hide that, right? If you're looking at a house and it's below zero, or the wind is gusting and you stand by the window, you know it. You know how well those windows are insulated, and you know how warm that house is. So you're right. And there are some tell-all signs, like, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you go into some houses and you look up at the ceiling, you'll see like almost black shadows every so often. And you'll say, what in the world is that? And I learned many, many years ago, because I always go to the home inspections, they run right along the rafters, okay? Because it's a sign that the house isn't insulated well enough. And those might not show up in the summertime. and they're a little harder to hide in the wintertime. So there are things that you look at. So yeah, it's very true. And I also like to look in the rainy season. Like after a really heavy rain, I love taking people out to look at houses because it's like, let's go in the basement. Yeah. If it's dry now, it's a pretty good indicator that it's not an issue. But if you go look when it's just, hasn't rained in 4 weeks, well, it's not as telling. Correct?
So the beautiful sunny day is not the day to go look for your house.
Oh, it's a nice day to go look at a house, but I mean, there is always a plus to going out in the inclement weather just for those reasons. It's like, this is a really slippery road that you live on, or they don't plow over here very well. I mean, those things all show up.
And yet, there's another thing. You get to look at what the neighborhood looks like and whether your neighbors take good care of their properties as well.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So, no, there's pluses. I mean, there's never a bad day to look at real estate, in my opinion. And, I mean, I absolutely, people say, oh, don't you hate looking at them in the winter? I'm like, well, it's not like we go walk. I don't like looking at farms in the winter if we're going to go walk. Sometimes they'll say, can we walk around this field out here? I'm like, you go right ahead. I'll be in the car. No, I'm kidding. But, it's like if it's a lot of outside walking, then the sunny, nice, warm day is good. But once we're inside a house, I guess it really doesn't matter if you're inside the house.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So we're at that time of the day where I ask you, how do you get a hold of Robin Gwaltney if you want to go look at a house in the middle of winter or in fall?
Or in this beautiful weather we're having now. We have to, this is great.
This week,
so yes, so it's a perfect day to go look at houses. Anyway, call my cell phone anytime. I'm always happy to answer it. If I don't answer it, it just means I'm talking to somebody else, and I will call back. And that number is 507-259-4926.
All right, Robin. We'll chat again next week.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It's Robin Gwaltney with Gwaltney Group RE/MAX Results here on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.